Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 2 of our Surrey School District and Stigma-Free Mental Health Society. I know you recently changed your name. I learned that yesterday, so I apologize that I didn't use the new name yesterday, but my hope was to use it today. We have Andrea Puckett from I learned yesterday also. I've been pronouncing her name wrong for the last decade, so I apologize for that. But as we meet together on the shared traditional territories of the Katzie, Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, and other Coast Salish nations, the unceded territory of these nations, we are so thankful for the work that we are able to do together with the Stigma-Free Mental Health Society for supporting mental health and wellness in our school district and all across the province, really. And I think, Andrea, you're doing all across Canada now. And so this is day 2. Yesterday, we had some wonderful stories of finding hope and stories of people overcoming mental health issues and still living with them and thriving. And today we're going to have a second day of these stories. And so I will turn it now over to Andrea. I'm going to disappear, but thank you all. Those of you who are watching from the schools, thank you so much for watching and participating. You can, if you're not watching now, but you're watching later because this doesn't fit with your bell schedule or your school schedule, we thank you for being here anyways. And we hope you enjoy the stories that these wonderful people who are here are about to tell. So Andrea, I turn it back over to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Daniel. We are so excited to be partnered with the Surrey School District for, I would say, the last 8 years now. The uptake of our programs are the most strong in Surrey, and at Stigma-Free Mental Health, we are super excited to be here today to be sharing our stories and our programs with you. So today you're in for a treat. The name of this entire event is Strength in Stories, Overcoming Stigma. And the big thing that we want to emphasize is finding hope. So with this live stream event, our wonderful speakers here today are going to share about their personal stories. Stigma-Free Mental Health was born into and about personal story, lived experience of mental health issues, really talking about the struggles and the triumphs as well. I personally was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was 25 years old, and being the original founder of Bipolar Disorder Society, which then became Stigma-Free Society in 2016 with co-founder Dave Richardson. And now we are Stigma-Free Mental Health Society, a much bigger team. We have 20 presenters who share their stories nationwide. And so I'm very proud of all of them because it takes a lot of courage. And I feel that it was always my personal dream back in the day to ensure that I could perhaps inspire other people to share their stories, empowerment. And I think that truly a lot of it is about healing. So today I'm going to be introducing you to Mike. I'm going to be also introducing you to Samantha, Brian, and Tanpreet. I'm going to go around the screen, and if you could just say a simple one-liner hello to everybody. So I'll start with you, Mike, and if you want to say hello, that would be great.
Hi, everyone. Glad you could be here today.
Awesome. And Samantha.
Hello, I'm glad I'm here today and excited to chat with everyone.
Perfect. And Brian? Brian looks a little frozen, so we'll go to Tanpreet. Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, I'm happy to be here.
Perfect. Okay, thanks,
Yeah,
Brian.
happy
And
to
Tanpreet, do you want to say hello?
be here.
Great.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanpreet. I'm looking forward to sharing my story with you all.
Perfect. All right. So thank you, everybody. And we're going to start with Mike today, and I'm going to share his bio with you, which really impresses me every time I read it. So Mike understands how to normalize the narrative so men can share their challenges and identity and to identify ways to overcome their limitations. All men have limits. Most are imposed by traumas experienced in life that are designed to protect us, but they also hold us back. In doing so, they restrain our families too. Not everyone experienced childhood abuse, but almost everyone has lived under toxic stress at some point and feels they are living below their potential. So Mike shows people ways to gain insight that is needed to develop awareness to overcome any limiting beliefs and keeps people from their own personal or professional success. Mike is an international bestseller of 9 books, a keynote speaker, men's mental health advocate, and sought after business strategist who has shared his insights and wisdom with thousands of passionate, purpose-driven entrepreneurs, business leaders, and executives, but also with young people. So Mike, we would love to hear your story and very excited to share the stage with you today.
Thank you, Andrea. I'll keep it shorter than my bio. You know the saying, don't judge a book by its cover? Well, that's a little bit like my story. Mike Skripnik. I'm almost 54 years old. From the age I could walk, I grew up in Calgary in a small brown house with a white picket fence on the corner of our street. Our community had a lot of families. Our roads, parks, yards, everywhere was full of kids playing. There's always a game of street hockey, tag, go hide and go seek, soccer, football, anything going on. It was pretty fun. At home, my family was great. My mom and dad and our sister and my sister and our cat, Fasty. Of course, we named her Fasty because she was fast. Well, what else is kids gonna name a cat? There was a lot of love at our home. Our neighborhood wasn't the richest, and neither were the kids I played with. They weren't all lucky to have a great home life like I was. We were very fortunate. This is my story. It's unique to me. People who have faced similar challenges might have different experiences, but I'll share mine with you in hopes that it makes your journey easier. When I was young, maybe under 12, I knew there was something different with my dad. He seemed like a lot of dads I knew, but he would go to sleep most nights early and not get up until work. He worked in good jobs and for a while even ran his own company. On the weekends, he went to bed. Sometimes he stayed there all day. Sometimes he stayed there all weekend. He also coached my soccer. He was part of the community association. I really thought this is kind of what other dads did as well, but didn't always know things were that simple. Sometimes when he was mad, he yelled and he would argue with my mom, and it seemed to go on and on. Then one day when I was 14 years old and we were on family vacation, our parents told me and my sister why my dad seemed different than other dads. We learned he had mental illness. His brain disorder is called schizophrenia. They explained it to us that dad took medication every day, and it was important that he did. It helped him think clearly. Unfortunately, also made him very sleepy. They also told us dad gets overwhelmed. You know what that means? You know what that means? It's when you feel life is too much sometimes and you'd rather not face it, so you withdraw and go to bed. If you've ever felt like this, it's normal to everyone sometimes. He felt like that a lot. That explains so much to me. It felt good to have them tell us. We could work together to have him help us and help him and understand what he was going through. But it was the 1980s. And back then, a very long time ago, I know, I'm kind of old. I mean, we have kids who are adults now as well. People didn't talk much about mental illness back then. In fact, it seemed like a lot of people were worried about people with mental illness. A lot of movies had people who escaped from an institution or saw them as, the villains were mad men. It was just the stigma that people who were living with and living were worried about. And someone in their families and someone they might have known were all maybe familiar, but they didn't talk about it. The effect of stigma on me was in the fear that others would judge my dad, me, and our family. Felt as though if we shared the truth, our dad would be portrayed as a monster and unsafe. And then we couldn't keep doing all the fun stuff we were doing or even go out in public. I mean, those fears were the fears I had, and that worry about stigma kept me silent. You see, this is where things got a little more difficult for me. At least that's what I thought back then. You see, now that I knew about my dad, I wanted to tell my friends. I thought it would help them understand me and how I felt sometimes. But our mom and our dad also told us never to speak with other people about this, that they wouldn't understand. They might even think badly of our dad, and it could affect his job or his role as our coach or, in the community association. So we kept it a secret. This was hard for me. I didn't understand why I should keep it a secret. He was my dad and I loved him and I love him. You know, I was proud of him and I looked up to him. And sometimes when things weren't good with him, I wanted to talk to my friends about how I was feeling. I also wanted to explain why they might think he's different. You know, having a secret was, oh, when you have a secret and you really want to share something, but you worry you can't. Yeah, that was me. Makes your tummy feel bad. And I felt sad sometimes. Secrets can eat you up from the inside. But to avoid the stigma that we thought others would have against our dad, we kept quiet for a very long time. I eventually started to tell people when I was an adult. You see, because of that, keeping a secret about mental health was something I learned to do. In fact, remember I mentioned I'm a bit older than some? Well, I kept my own secret for 40 years. And at one point, it was so painful that it was causing me stress in my own mind and making me physically ill. I had no energy and I wasn't eating normally. And sometimes I wasn't hungry. Other times I wanted only sweets. I also got very sad and depressed. This is when you have bad feelings or sadness and the mood just doesn't go away like most times when we feel a bit down. I felt like I couldn't face the world or reach out to people. And I really just wanted to stay in bed and cry most days. But through most of my life, I didn't want to share my secret. I was worried the stigma would affect how people thought of me, that I might lose my job, or that people would no longer be my friends. I was worried I would become that guy, you know, or people would think I was damaged in some way. My worries about the stigma people had about things like my secret paralyzed me. I didn't want my mom to learn that she couldn't help me and that I hid something from her. And I wanted to keep a secret until the day I died. My parents said not to talk about your secrets, and mine was pretty bad, so no one ever knew. I was ashamed. I felt embarrassed. I also felt guilty and unworthy. And after a life of success and being a father, a husband, an author, speaker, business person, I felt hopeless. My secret was eating me from the inside out. In fact, for me, things got so dark and depressing, I thought maybe I shouldn't be around anymore. Maybe my family would be better without me and my problems would all go away. I was worried that by telling my story, it would define me. But it did that anyway for 40 years. Obviously, I chose life and healing. You see, I'm here today. And one day, not long ago, I finally told my secret and got help from a professional. You see, I was hurt by an adult when I was a young boy, and he was someone everyone admired and trusted. It affected me deeply. When I went to school, no one ever knew about what happened. That trauma stuck with me my entire life because I chose to keep my secret and not tell anyone. And when I broke my silence, everything changed. My life got so much better. All the things I feared that would happen when I told my story didn't. Not a single thing was bad about it for me. In fact, the opposite happened. When I told our kids, they were there to support me and love me more. When I told my mom, she gave me heaps of love and understanding, more than I could have ever wanted. The same for my sister and my dad. When I started to share my story, you see, it wasn't my secret anymore. It was my story. With friends or even total strangers, they actually shared their stories with me. And I was so surprised to hear that many, many, many people had their own stories, and everyone seemed to have some kind of secret story about them, their family, or someone they knew. I realized I wasn't alone, and I realized I was feeling so much better. I said I also reached out to a professional. You know, where do we go when we want to learn to play guitar? And we go to a teacher, right? How about when we want to learn about our body or an injury? That's right, we go see a doctor. Pretty much any time we need to help to learn or grow to make us better, we go to a professional. That's exactly the same. When our brains are having challenges, we have the option to go see people who do that for their job. And that person I saw And the psychologist I saw was named Robert. He was a very nice man. He was incredibly helpful. He knew exactly what to do to help me and my brain heal and get better. He gave me treatment, and I felt the weight of the world was lifted off my shoulders. And my secret wasn't a big deal anymore. In fact, it's just my story. You see, it felt wonderful to finally have my secret out and for the trauma to be gone. I carried it for so long, decades, in fact, and the average person like me would take almost 24 years to break their silence on it. And I could have easily never told my story or gotten the help I needed. The most amazing thing for me is I just started to feel better right away. You see, everyone has a different experience with how they work through their trauma. Some people aren't able to work through theirs simply, and that's okay too. Just working on it is what's important. And like so many other stories I have about my life, it also felt good to share with people. And I want to share with everyone. Every single worry I had about telling people about my dad and then my own secret was totally wrong. I wish I knew it would be that good and safe to tell when I was your age. My whole life would have been better. And I have a pretty darn great life already. Now I think back and I wonder what I would talk about myself or tell that boy named Mike when he was 11 years old. And what I would say these things to him. I would tell him, number one, secrets. They'll make you very sick. Physically and mentally, they'll cause you pain and illness in your body and make you sad and confused in your mind. Number two, I'd say find someone you know, like, and trust, like your family if they're safe, a friend or a coach, teacher, and a counselor at your school or your doctor. You don't have to tell everyone your challenges, just a couple key people. The worry you have, number three, is the worry they have for all the reasons you think it's risky for sharing how you feel with someone else is not nearly as bad as the secret that you keep. Number four, the longer you hold your feelings or that secret in, the harder it is on you in your life. When we hurt our knee and it's bleeding, we don't wait for it to bleed all over the kitchen. We don't avoid getting it fixed, do we? And we don't hide it from everyone. When our minds are hurting and we feel bad all the time, we can get help that will take away the pain so we can feel better and be happier. Number five, I have two more. You can trust yourself by knowing you're worthy, and what anyone says or does, you'll be okay. Number six, and the last one, you deserve love. Doesn't it feel good to be loved and share that you love other people? My parents always told me I could do anything I wanted. I always thought it, but didn't always believe it in my core. Today, I know I can do anything, and I trust myself to be who I am, and then I'll be okay. Today, I feel like I was that kid before I was 11. And at 53, I'm that beautiful, loving, creative, energized, limitless boy facing the world with hope and optimism and unlimited worth. And when we overcome our fears about the real or imagined stigma that exists in society, we can find support, get help, and live our best lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. That's the first time I heard your story in this format. Very inspiring. I really appreciate you sharing your truth. I did want to ask you a couple questions since I know we'll have some time with our stories here. Sure. And sometimes people feel a personal stigma when it comes to getting help, like from a counselor, a therapist, that kind of thing. So I was wondering if you could give some advice on somebody who may be facing that kind of stigma within themselves.
Well, for me, my experience was that the pain at the time that I was undergoing the need to talk to somebody was so great that I would do anything to make that pain go away. And I heard that seeing someone who knows what they're doing about it would be a great solution. So I did that. So what I really would also impress upon people is that what I learned going through that process is that I didn't need to be in that much pain to find people who could help me with some things that were troubling me. I kind of knew there were some things going on that I needed to talk about, but I didn't understand how important it was. And now that I do, this is what I try to share with people is we don't need to be in that crisis moment to seek someone else, I mean, we don't have to be totally unhealthy to go, go get some exercise, right?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. That makes so much sense. And I know what it's like to grow up with a parent with a mental illness as well. My mother was diagnosed as bipolar disorder as I was growing up since I was 3 years old, but actually has schizoaffective disorder and was re-diagnosed many years later. And it was a secret. And I know what you mean. Like, it's very difficult for a lot of people who don't want to share that secret. Because as a young child, say if you're in grade 6, 7, or whichever grade, it's hard to explain that that is the way it is at home. So, do you have any advice around how we can feel less stigma around our parents having mental illness or that family environment, and maybe how we can explain to our friends what's going on instead of holding on to that really hard secret?
Yeah, we all look up when we're children, and most times in lives we look up to our parents, and whether good or bad, whatever's going on in our house, we talked very openly about my dad's mental illness. Right? We were completely open and honest about it in our house, but then when it came to speaking about it outside, it was forbidden. And what I didn't understand is that I could talk to certain people and they would hold my information in confidence, that they would keep my secret, that if I spoke with a counselor or a doctor or someone just so I could have that moment to express myself, that they didn't and they wouldn't share that with anyone. And I was just so worried because I was told that no matter what, we can't talk about it, right? So kids can seek their counselor or see their doctor and talk about these things, even if they feel that the family doesn't want to share. This isn't going outside of your family, because these people that's their role, is they play a role in confidence. I mean, Kids Help Phone now, with that out there, I mean, these people are professionals. They're trained to help you, and they completely keep your confidence. So had I known that there were people who would keep my secret too, I would have been able to, and wishing I would have shared more, for sure.
Yeah. Well, here you are sharing today and making a big difference. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Samantha, I'm going to share your bio. So Samantha is a registered dietitian, mom, and multi-passionate solopreneur. She graduated from University of Saskatchewan in 2013 with a Bachelor's of Science in Nutrition, and immediately moved to a small town with under 3,000 people in northwestern Ontario. Since then, she has dealt with chronic pain stemming from arthritis and mental health challenges and started working for herself. In addition to working with Stigma-Free Mental Health, she also volunteers with the Arthritis Health Professions Association. So welcome, Samantha. Thank you so much for being part of our Stigma-Free Mental Health team. And I will let you take it away.
Thank you for that introduction. My name is Samantha, and today I'm going to share my story with you about anxiety, depression that I've had at various points in my life, how those things felt and how I was able to manage them eventually, and how having a chronic illness and chronic pain impacts your mental health, especially when it starts when you're young. So I first started having anxiety, what I would later call anxiety attacks, around 12 years old. But at that stage, it didn't affect me much because they weren't that frequent. So it wasn't that different from any other unpleasant emotion. Sometimes you feel sad or angry, and those aren't nice emotions to feel for a long time. So similarly, I would feel anxious sometimes. I did well in school. I worked a part-time job once I was old enough and saved up for university. After high school, I went straight into university, and this is when I started having more strong issues with anxiety and depression. While it was happening, I wasn't fully aware how bad it was. I knew I was stressed, but I was in university. That's expected, right? I would cry myself to sleep most nights, but I was just homesick. It wasn't until the first spring, at the end of my first year of university, when I finally noticed that the sky was blue and the grass was green, and I felt good in that moment. And I realized it had been a while since I felt good. And I knew I had been depressed for most of that first year of university. All throughout university, I had really high expectations for myself, and I felt that others expected me to excel as well. It's empowering to know that others think highly of you, but those expectations can also be really stress-inducing if you don't have good strategies and habits to maintain your mental health. When I went to university, I was also away from family support for the first time in my life. I didn't have someone there to take care of me. I had a roommate, but they also didn't know how to do any of this stuff, and we had to figure out how to do everything for ourselves at the same time. It was during university that I had my first big anxiety attacks and full panic attacks. So for me, an anxiety attack feels like heat in the middle of my chest, and my brain feels like it's filled with static. I find it really hard to identify what I'm thinking or what I'm feeling beyond the anxiety. I can interact with people, I can function a little bit, but I am not at my best. I feel miserable and I'm struggling. A panic attack for me is much more intense. It doesn't last as long, but during a panic attack, I can't really speak or move. There are no thoughts. It's like nothing else exists except the panic. At the same time, through much of my university, I was also experiencing depression. It's like a heavy blanket weighing me down. I'm tired all the time and have no interest in doing anything, really. So it's a really interesting experience when I was experiencing both at once. And I think to a large extent, the depression for me was my brain's attempt at managing some of those anxiety, because it's harder to have that panic and anxiety when you're numb. I muddled my way through university, but I never really learned how to deal with it. I just dealt with what I had to in the moment and pushed my way through those really hard moments. Getting my degree and starting my career was my number one priority above absolutely everything else, including my health. I do not recommend it, and it is not necessary. I learned some really bad habits that I later had to unlearn. So if I could go back in time, I would definitely try to learn those coping skills earlier so I could handle it as I went. I did make it through university and started a job right away in Northwestern Ontario. And that first year out of my first year of my first job out of university went really well, and I wasn't thinking about mental health. I just was enjoying the relief of stress and not being in university anymore. But then one day at the end of August, my knee started to hurt. I'd gone for a walk after supper and it was kind of chilly, so I just wrapped up in a blanket on the couch to watch a movie before bed. And when I went upstairs to go to bed, my knee kind of hurt. But then it got worse day after day, and eventually I had to go to a doctor, see a physiotherapist, get x-rays, blood work, even an MRI, because it would not go away. What people don't realize is that when you are in physical pain every day, to the point where you can't go for a walk, you can't even stand to do a few dishes, it really takes a toll on your mental health. Before my knee started to hurt, I would walk my dog most days, and our usual loop was about 2 kilometers, and some days we'd even go 5 or 10 kilometers. And then overnight, I couldn't do it anymore. I would go to my boyfriend's house at the time, who's now my husband, and I would break down crying over the tiniest, insignificant things because I had no capacity left to deal with it. I realized that walking was something that had helped me keep my mental state in a good place, but I could not do it. We know that being physically active helps your mental health, and that was certainly true for me. I had to find ways to experiment with other forms of exercise that didn't use my knee so I could get some of those benefits for my mental health. Eventually, my knee spontaneously got better, but I was ultimately diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis, which is a type of arthritis that often starts when people are in their 20s and 30s. This type of arthritis goes through periods of flares where your joints are really painful, swollen, and other periods, sometimes months or even years, where it's inactive. So after a few months of my knee being swollen and painful, the arthritis went into an inactive state for a little while. But a couple of years after that, I had a major depressive episode. So in hindsight, I'm actually really grateful for it because this was when I learned all of those skills that I wish I had known when I was in university. So it started a few years after I was first diagnosed with psoriatic arthritis. Things were going well with my health. My arthritis was completely inactive, but they weren't going so well for my dog. He was my buddy. He came with me to my new home when I first started working, and he was my only company before I started making friends in the new town I was living in. When he passed, it was extremely difficult for me because not only did I somehow need to deal with that grief, but it also triggered some unresolved grief from my childhood. This spiraled into a full-blown depression, and I had to go off work for a while. My full-time job became learning how to manage my mental health. A lot of therapy and journaling ended up being some key strategies for me to unpack the things that I needed to work on and learn new ways of looking at the world. I created routines for myself. I actually didn't allow myself to watch TV, play video games, or go on my phone during the day because while those things are fun, at that point in time, I would be using them to avoid the difficult emotions and my job of learning how to manage my mental health. So instead, I tried new habits and new techniques of, drinking tea while observing nature, watching the butterflies and bumblebees in the lilac bush, going for a daily walk, tending a small container garden so I could watch something grow. I tried out new recipes, baking, and the most healing moments for me came from watching nature, as well as meditation and doing yoga. Those quiet moments where I could learn my own brain and let the work sort of sink in. Throughout all of this journey, I learned skills and ways of thinking that helped me come out of that depression. Some of those key skills were learning to deeply identify what I am feeling, understanding my thought patterns, and noticing when things are starting to get worse so that I can take the time and space to take care of myself and stop myself from spiraling into those extremes. I leaned heavily on all of these skills when my arthritis flared up just a year after that depressive episode. This time, it was to the point where the only part of my body that didn't hurt was my spine. It was in my feet, knees, hips, shoulders, elbows, and hands. There were days that I could not get myself ready in the morning. Just trying to brush my hair was painful. At a certain point, that level of pain impacts your ability to just think and follow a conversation, and it definitely affects your mental health. It was at this point that I became thankful for the depressive episode because I learned all of these skills. I had all of these tools in my toolbox. I could meditate to help relieve a little bit of pain. I could use mindfulness to identify what type of pain I was having so I could resolve it and make it a little bit better by stretching or taking a warm bath, depending on the type of pain I was having. And I also used journaling to be able to come to terms with having chronic pain and a chronic illness. I had had psoriatic arthritis for a few years, but it didn't affect me much until this point. And now it was impacting my ability to function. I was in my 20s and needing to start a medication that I would take 3 times a day, potentially for the rest of my life. I was in my 20s and struggling to work and uncertain whether it would ever change. I felt like I was being judged for being unable to do certain things, and for a while, I judged myself. I had to work to get to a place where I was able to stop judging myself and reduce and let go of that self-stigma. Thankfully for me, the medications worked and my arthritis is back to being inactive. So it's not a major part of my daily life. But I also know that psoriatic arthritis does go through periods of flares. So it will likely come back at some point in my future. So far, I've been lucky and had a few years without pain, but it could come back at any time. Similarly, it seems like my nervous system is wired for anxiety, so I still do have occasional panic attacks. But instead of being daily, they are, every few months, once or twice a year, not very often. And because I know this is just something that my body and brain does on occasion, it doesn't spiral. I can just accept that it happened, take the time to take care of myself, and just let that energy come back. Basically, I've gotten to a place now where neither pain nor my mental health holds me back. And while I occasionally need to deal with anxiety and may need to deal with the arthritis in the future, I have the tools to be able to handle whatever comes my way. And I know that there are a lot of resources out there that I can reach out to when I need it. This is my story, and it's unique to me. People who have faced similar challenges will likely have a different experience. From listening to each other's stories and hearing from one another, we can become stigma-free. So thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you, Samantha. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I haven't touched base with you in a little bit, but it's so great to see you after a good year. And I did have a couple of quick questions because of your very valuable education and background. But also, you know how you're talking about coping strategies and how important they are. How can people find out about all these coping strategies? There's a lot of overwhelming information just typing that into Google. Do you have any suggestions on how to find different ways that people can take care of their mental health?
Absolutely. Well, I mean, the Stigma-Free Mental Health Society has a great website, so definitely go check that out. But it's also another place where seeking professionals can really be helpful because different tools will work for different people and different situations. So having someone to help guide you can also be a really valuable resource.
Great. And what about nutrition? You have education in nutrition. How does that affect your mental health?
Absolutely. Being able to fuel yourself and eat regularly throughout the day is really important. And eating balanced meals, so having, your fruits and vegetables, your protein sources, your carbs, is really helpful to give your body what it needs. But it also is so nuanced. So seeking that professional help can be really valuable.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Because that can be pretty overwhelming at times for a lot of people, but there is a way. There is a way, like Mike was saying, professionals, right? And reaching out to those people who know exactly what they're doing. Perfect. Thank you, Samantha. Okay, Brian. Brian, I'm going to introduce your bio. Brian studied anthropology and environmental studies in university and is a mental health advocate. Over the years, he has done tree planting and ecology work and tries to mix both nature and mental health since spending time outdoors greatly benefits his mental health. So, Brian, let's have you take it away. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. And my name is Brian. I'm a recent university graduate, and I'm here today to talk about mental health. So I love basically connecting people with nature. That way, people can learn more about themselves and create a positive community connection. When I was younger, particularly in grades 7, 8, and 9, I was bullied a lot and cyberbullied as well. At school, I was picked on, as were many of my classmates. I was punched, insulted, and slapped around in many of my classes when the teacher wasn't there. I was really afraid to go to school since I thought of school like a prison. So I frequently skipped classes because of fear of being bullied. I had many panic attacks, so maybe 2 or 3 per week, and I was literally afraid to go to school every single day. Now, a panic attack is a feeling for me of impending fear and a feeling that something horrible is going to happen to you. You want to escape from it. My hands and feet got really cold and I was breathing really fast. I felt like I had no control over whether or not I went to school. This lack of a control led to panic feelings in my body. Now, my self esteem and self confidence took a lot of hits. I was bullied since many people thought I was kind of a nerd, but many of my classmates were bullied for different reasons. I changed schools a number of times, but it's extremely difficult because in new schools, people have their own groups, and fitting in is extremely difficult. And I found myself most of the time alone. I just spent time at the library or sitting on a bench eating lunch. Now, what hurt me a lot was not being accepted by my peers and also being mistreated. This scarred me for a very long time, to be honest, because being ostracized and kicked out of a social group does create a huge emotional impact on a person. It impacted me in very negative ways, as I had a lot of difficulty trusting people for a very long time, and I was very reactive to what a lot of people were saying about me. I thought people just wanted to hurt me in countless ways, which of course was not true, but this is how I perceived it at that particular time when I was young. Life was difficult when I was young. It was for my peers as well. I had many conversations with classmates that were going through many of the same things as me, such as anxiety, depression, panic attacks, fears, phobias. But a lot of these things are hidden because society keeps these things as taboo if you talk about them. This leads to stigma and worse mental health issues. Bullying is extremely common in schools. I've witnessed it and talked to countless people that have suffered in silence or are afraid to voice their experiences due to fears of being judged, criticized, or labeled. People get bullied for many different reasons. For example, could be age, could be gender, could be sexual orientation, it could be even weight, as numerous of my friends were obese and they were also used as punching bags. There was a girl I remember. She had like an eating disorder and she used to get bullied all the time, and people used to laugh at her, pick on her. And I remember one of the days she was actually crying. Now, bullying is common and it can be physical, verbal, online, as well as many other forms. An example of cyberbullying is I witnessed it was when my classmates beat me up, and they also beat some people. Took a video and posted it on social media. The problem is with social media, it has the potential to be online for a very long time, and this affects the person in a very negative way. Social media is a powerful tool and should be used wisely and always being respectful of others. When I was young, one coping mechanism I used was playing a lot of video games, such as Call of Duty and Medal of Honor. I used to play lots of these video games to cope with feelings of anger and anxiety. Many of my friends and classmates did the exact same thing because all of us were afraid to openly discuss what was going on and instead escape reality by playing video games. Anger is a powerful emotion and has to be expressed in a healthy way. When I was younger, I didn't know how to express my anger in constructive ways. I repressed it, and this had lots of consequences for my mental health. A major problem for me is I didn't have much family support, and a lot of times I was left alone. The best way to express emotions is by talking about it to trusted friends, counselors, even family members, Over the years, I was afraid to ask for help, since many people I asked for help didn't really do much, and I felt really alone for a number of years. One of the things I personally learned is challenging powerful emotions, such as anger, into constructive endeavors, such as volunteering, acting, arts, music, exercise, and this leads to all anger being expressed in a healthy way. Over time, after I graduated high school, I learned a great deal on how to deal with issues such as hatred, anxiety, in very constructive ways. One of them is volunteering, doing tree planting, ecological restoration, shoreline cleanups. This helped me with my anxiety and depression. I have done lots of volunteer work in Vancouver in mental health advocacy, where I get to speak to people from all walks of life and realize how mental health challenges are extremely common, since most of it is hidden. Lots of people are shy, reserved, and are afraid to be labeled and stigmatized, and this further complicates things in life. I've had a lot of deep, meaningful conversations with people on mental health and coping mechanisms. A big fear I've seen among people I've spoken to is fear of being seen as vulnerable and not knowing what will happen by being open about mental health. Now, when I was in school, mental health wasn't discussed and wasn't really openly talked about. I found that by listening to people and sharing my struggles, it heals a lot. And you get to become peace and you get to have peace with yourself. And you attract a lot of positive things in your life. Asking for help is important, as everybody needs help and assistance. Volunteering and doing mental health advocacy work does wonders in raising awareness and spreading the word and finding new techniques to help each other out. As well, it heals you inside out. Opening up emotionally and being vulnerable in front of strangers is scary, but in many ways, I personally have found that it has opened my heart to being more emotionally resilient from the past. Now, from my experiences, I learned a lot about my character and personality and how compassion and forgiveness heals you on the inside out. Hopefully, you can all learn about mental health and how talking openly about it will help you all grow and heal, as well as help each other out and help end stigma. This is my personal story, and it is unique to me. People who have faced similar challenges may have different experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you so much for being brave and sharing your story with us. I so appreciate it. Just one quick question before I move on to Tanpreet as the clock is ticking. I was just curious, the impact of social media and bullying. This is a very important topic that's coming up for Stigma-Free Society as of late. And I was curious, what does a young person do if they are getting bullied? Just in your opinion, maybe something you didn't do. I was curious if you had any tips for people who may be facing those very difficult circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. So that is an excellent question. The thing is with social media though, it's when a video is up there or a picture, it spreads like wildfire. So my best advice would be to tell your parents, tell trusted family, tell the counselor, talk to teachers, because if you don't, it just goes from bad to worse though, because social media, anybody can see stuff online, and some stuff might actually cause you a lot of mental health struggles though. Like what I didn't do is when my video was posted to social media as well as some of my friends, we never said anything. So people ridiculed us, they laughed at us. So the thing is, like I should have talked to friends, family, teachers, but bullying was extremely common, and also all of us were afraid of being judged, criticized, but also talking to teachers about it. So my advice would be to take the risk and talk to authority figures. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Brian. Much appreciated. Okay, and our last presenter is
Thank you.
Tanpreet. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so Tanpreet aims to encourage others to cultivate their own success and turn the life that they dream of into a reality. Tanpreet is a model, an actress. She's a philanthropist. She has a BBA majoring in human resource management. She was crowned Miss Charity British Columbia in 2014 and Miss India Canada in 2016, and placed second runner-up in Miss Canada 2020. She really believes in giving back to the community and is regularly invited to engage in motivational speaking with young people, in which she shares the challenges, failures, and insecurities that she's faced. She emphasizes the importance of self-love and confidence, and to never let anything or anyone bring you down. Excellent bio. Thank you, Tampreet, and can't wait to hear your story. So over to you.
Thank you for the lovely introduction, Andrea. Hello, everyone. My name is Tanpreet, and I'm really excited to share my story with you tonight. So let's get started. Our modern world surrounds us with unrealistic beauty standards and societal expectations, from celebrities in magazines to perfectly curated social media feeds. It's really easy to feel pressured and look a certain way. The relentless pressure takes a toll on all of our mental health. And it's really important and crucial to realize that sometimes the images and things that we see on media are not always real. I understand this struggle firsthand. Growing up, societal and media pressures really fueled my own battles with poor body image and perfectionism. It took time, but I learned the importance of self-love and acceptance. That is why I'm here today, to share my story and the strategies that help me find strength and embrace my true self. Body image isn't about how you look, it's also about how you feel about yourself. And it can relate to your body size, shape, height, skin color, appearance, facial features, physical disabilities, or even just your differences. And body image, especially poor body image, can also be influenced by different things such as family, peers, media, and social pressures. Having negative body image can maybe help make you feel like you have some sort of anxiety. It can lead to deep shame. It can lead to self-consciousness related to your physical appearance. It can also lead to serious eating disorders as well. Coming from a culture, it was really focused on weight, and I was very body conscious at a young age. And coming from a South Asian background, weight discussions and even a bit of weight teasing was a part of our cultural norm. It wasn't till a little bit later where I understood that these interactions, even if well-meaning, could have a negative impact. Throughout high school, I was also teased and bullied about my weight, and it really fueled my insecurities. Of course, with my passions of wanting to enter the world of modeling, pageantry, a lot of these pressures intensified. It became harder on me, and my struggles increased because of the emphasis on specific body types. Rejections based on height or weight felt like a dismissal of who I truly was. It was a constant pressure to conform and be a certain way, which truly chipped away my self-esteem and fueled negative self-talk into me. And despite having success, despite being in this industry, I truly battled with self-talk and anxiety about myself and my body and the way I looked and felt about it. I continued to experience weight stigma, and I felt less desirable than others. I fell into the trap of restrictive eating. I was excessive exercising, and I constantly focused on numbers on the scale and what I looked like in the mirror, never feeling good enough. Everything that I was surrounded by in this world, I felt that it really impacted my self-esteem, and it created so much anxiety for me. And initially, I didn't discuss these struggles. However, opening up to somebody was something that I knew I had to do. And I decided to talk to somebody about all these battles and insecurities that I was facing before it had gotten worse. And talking to a school counselor was a turning point for me. And there's a few things that I was able to develop and find that really helped myself and find that self-love and overcome the negative and poor body image that I was facing and that perfectionism that I was feeling. And I just want to share some of the things that really supported me while I was going through these things. And that was challenging negativity and replace negative self-talk with affirmations such as, I love my body and I'm so grateful for how strong it is. When you have positive self-talk and focus on affirmations, it really helps get rid of any negative talk or self-sabotaging yourself. So these affirmations really helped me. I surrounded myself with positivity and unfollowed triggering social media accounts. As we all know, social media plays a huge role in part in our daily lives today, but it's really important to be mindful of the things that you're surrounding yourself with or exposing yourself to, and maybe find things that help inspire you. For me, it was following those who were inspiring individuals and inspiring body positive individuals, which really helped me feel better about my situation. Embracing my uniqueness was another thing that I really focused on. I celebrated what made me different. And during this journey, I also discovered a world of pageants that actually focused on personality and inner strength and advocacy, and not just on what's on the outside. I'm currently a contestant for Miss Canada 2024, and I'm so thrilled to be competing again. And I'm grateful to be a part of it because it's a pageant that focuses on personality and who we are. And finding platforms and organizations like this that really support that truly helped me feel better about myself. I feel more confident, and it allows me to embrace my uniqueness. I also prioritize my well-being. I really took the time to learn about healthy eating and exercise and focusing on fueling my body, getting professional advice on how I can fuel my body and make it stronger, and making sure that I'm taking care of it. Nutrition was something that really helped me feel better about myself. And of course, seeking help. I truly believe in the power of seeking help. It is a sign of strength, not weakness. And seeking support from a counselor or talking to people that I trust really helped me. Using these methods, I was able to find success in my life. I was able to find that courage again and that confidence to do the things that I loved without having that self-doubt that I was struggling with, those body image struggles, struggle of perfectionism, comparing myself to what I saw out there. And it really helped support me grow and, excel in all my passions in my life. And this is my story, and it is really unique to me. And people who have faced similar challenges may have different experiences. Your mental health can be affected by many causes and experiences in your life. And this is how mine was affected throughout my journey. And mental health struggles look different for everyone. Prioritizing it and self-love really helped me achieve my goals. It's really encouraged me to pursue my passions even till today. I stand here as a woman who embraces her body now. And I really want to emphasize to let you all know, and just to encourage you to not let society define you. And to remember that beauty truly comes in all different shapes and sizes. And if you're struggling, you're never alone. And it's just really important to be kind to yourself and celebrate your bodies. Remember that you're worthy just as you are. That's my story. And I hope that somewhere that this can apply and relate to you in your lives. And I thank you for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Tampreet. I always love hearing your story and sharing the virtual stage with you. I just had a quick question. So when are you competing? Tell us a little bit about that. I love that it's based on personality and people and their advocacy efforts. So if you could share a little bit before we close off, that'd be great.
Yes. So sometimes, when we look at the world of pageantry, we look at the glitz and the glam, but I'm really excited to be competing for Miss Canada this May, on May 19th, and it'll be in Montreal. This pageant really focuses on advocacy and platforms, as well as your personality and who you are as an individual. My platform does revolve around mental health advocacy, as well with a big focus on body image, especially with my personal experiences. This is why I'm bringing this to Miss Canada as my platform, and I really hope to be able to inspire everyone out there to be able to pursue their passions as well, and learn something from this. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Perfect. Well, good luck. We're going to be rooting for you. And I'm so glad that you have been with Stigma-Free Society now, I think for over 2 years, correct?
Yes, it's been a long time. It's really awesome experience.
Amazing. Well, you're so committed, and we really appreciate that. So everybody, please visit stigmafreementalhealth.com. Stigma-Free Mental Health Society is an organization, a nonprofit that's dedicated to the awareness of various stigmas with a focus on mental health, understanding, and also the acceptance of ourselves and others. So stigmafreementalhealth.com. In tomorrow's live event, we have our third one for the Strengthened Stories. It'll be myself and 2 additional presenters. And I'll be sharing quite a bit on the Student Mental Health Toolkit for educators, for youth, school counselors, and even for parents and guardians. And I'll share a little bit too, and a video about our virtual presentations program where you can have great presenters like these 4 wonderful people come into classrooms across Canada. And we really want to make an even further impact into the Surrey School District. So thank you, everybody. Enjoy your mental health week. We are all about awareness at Stigma-Free, and we are so happy that we've been able to offer some education and hopefully some inspiration. So thank you so much and have a wonderful day. Take care.